Hello everybody and welcome back to some more snooker action. This time it's the round 3 of the China Grand Prix and it is the world number 4 against the world number 25. But more importantly, it is the clash of old rivals and old friends there. Their first battle comes as far back as 2001 when these two legends have met in between each other for the first time. It is RonnieOSullivan up against Stephen Maguire for a place in the last 16 spot already. A couple of upsets for the top seeded players today. Neil Robertson was another player that had to lose out in a deciding battle today. So pretty much very similar story to the one that Judd Chalmers had yesterday against Matthew Stevens. And of course Neil Robertson was on course to face RonnieOSullivan potentially in the quarterfinal stage. Those two being the highest seeded players in their quarter part there. But Stephen Maguire will have a lot to say about that. Those two will have ultimate respect for each other. But ultimately right now, all that matters is whether one of these players is going to come out on top in this battle. Very much looking forward to this. And as I say, I think it's still Ronnie's game to lose. But unlike Julian Boyko and Yao Pencheng, I think Maguire will certainly put up a fight there to Ronnie. And this is not going to be a walk in the park for the Rocket. But this is the first real test. And the first test that he has to pass now if he wants to progress to the battle with Jack Jones. He'll be waiting patiently for him in the last 16. Well, I don't think he'll be waiting patiently for him. I think he'll be hoping that he actually will get Stephen Maguire. For obvious reasons. And we're about to find out. I think you certainly can tell that this match is not going to last over 3 hours, because both of the players are going to want to play this match in an attacking style and fashion, as Ronnie just asked something with the referee, so a little bit of a delay to start off. Don't think he's happy. By the way, talk about the delay. When we've got the time, I am very curious to know what you think about the clash of Daniel Wells and Xi'An in the morning session. If you've not heard about it, basically a lot of drama happened in the 7th frame, but talk about that a little bit later on. And Xi'An has went on to lose their match to Daniel Wells, the last year's semi-finalist here, as he progresses to the last 16 spot. And it's a nice shot, although, in the meantime from Ronnie, as the play is resumed. And right now Maguire does have a chance to take the cue ball and play down the table into the reds, into the left corner. But I think he'll refuse that one for quite some time, because the black is covered up into the opposite corner. The pink is still not available in any one of the corner pockets. So therefore, it's a shot that probably is not worth taking on. So just a little cross double for Maguire to try and play. Push the black into available play, which is exactly what he's done. But ultimately, I think he could have played the shot a little bit better, catching the green pretty much full ball there. And leaving some of the options to Ronnie here. Into the right corner. Good afternoon, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. And I am certainly looking forward to see what that will happen. But I think from Ronnie's point of view, it's the first real test. And it, of course, means that he has to take this very seriously. And also he has to try and take the opening frame there. And just be in control of the match. Not leave anything up for grabs there for Maguire earlier on. Because if he gives himself a frame or two, he can try and be in charge of it. Maguire will inevitably get too eager there and frustrated at times. Force himself into shots that are not really available for him. And O'Sullivan will just be able to pounce on that, as he always does. And right now it's a decent shot there from Maguire, but the little kiss of the brown of the cue ball is not going to be too handy for him there. Still earlier on, no attempts from either one of the players to go for a long pot. Probably a sign of the respect that those two have got in between each other. I think there's going to be plenty of that so far here. And O'Sullivan just having a look to see if it's worth taking on one of those long pots. And he's going to be able to see the black there, or potentially trying to guide the cue ball in towards the lower part of the table. Yeah, so he decided to go for the red there. Clearly not finding a safety shot that he could have played. So tried to go for a shot off the red into the left corner pocket along the cushion. No chance of getting on the colour. And no chance of reaving an easy red there for Maguire. And basically using that shot as a safety for him. And Stephen Shorley will just play the cue ball away from the back and in towards the baulk line area once again. And yeah, talk about some of the surprises. As I mentioned, Neil Robertson has been knocked out. We'll still have Joey Long, Mark Williams, Sean Murphy, Matthew Stevens. Those players are going to be featuring right now alongside this match, as well as Gary Wilson, the former finalist this season already. And well, if you talk about upsets, I would say Robertson and Chomp are the biggest ones so far. Karen Wilson has managed to win his match against Xi'An Sejun, progress himself to the last 16, where he potentially will face Sean Murphy. Depends if he'll be able to overcome Wu Yize on table number 3. And Stan Moody, after his brilliant campaign start yesterday, all of a sudden he was stopped by a brilliance of Stuart Bingham by 5 frames to nil. An absolute whitewash and a demolition job there. A little bit of a shame that that match wasn't actually shown. But I say a shame, as I say, from what I've seen in Daniel Wells against Si Jiawei. Plenty of drama. And it's a perfect shot there from Ronnie in terms of potting the cue ball, but not necessarily in terms of the safety play. But I think one of those shots that you see Ronnie go in off there quite often, but I think it's going to be an advantage to him once again here, just as it was a couple of times yesterday against Yao Peng Cheng, because he would rather give Maguire a ball in hand and a tough long pot to try and face himself with. I was looking at the draw today. The top half looked a lot tougher. Murphy, Ronnie, Wilson, and Robertson, who lost earlier. Bottom half, best player left, in according to bookies, is Williams. Yes, exactly. You had Selby, you had Trump, you had Zhao Xington, you had Si Jiawei. All of them were in the bottom part of the draw. All of them got eliminated there. We might see a surprise name in the final from the bottom. Absolutely. If it ain't going to be Williams, it will be a surprise name. As Maguire for now, considering to take a red on in towards the left corner. Misses it. But is he going to give anything away there to Ronnie? I don't think he will. So he gets away with it this time. With so many reds just getting in the way of each other. But yeah, because so top part of the draw is super strong. You've got Wilson in there, you've got Ronnie in there, you have Murphy in there, you have Ding Zhuowei in there, Wu Yize, you could try and put him in that category, but yeah, from the bottom part, from what I can remember, is Robert Milkins, Aaron Hill, Liam Pullen, who else is in there? Matthew Stevens, Liu Hao Tiang. Yeah, I just don't think it's yeah, the lower part of the draw is going to be too strong there, but it doesn't mean that it can't challenge you in the final, because remember that these players have knocked out the likes of Mark Selby, Zhao Xington, and Judd Trump there. Hawkins possible other name at bottom, that wouldn't be a huge... Yeah, so I would be 3 people that I would say would be understandable. You could make an argument for 4 of them, but it's basically, for me, it's Joey Long, the finalist of the English Open. Then it will be Mark Williams, the highest seed of them all. Then it will be Stuart Bingham and Barry Hawkins. Because one of them is a world champion. One of them is the finalist of these years, and the other one is a multiple-time world champion. So, and you also can make a little bit of an argument there for Barry Hawkins. He's been a great player to watch throughout his career, and certainly had well, a few ranking event wins, but not probably the amount that he could have had, given the quality of a player that he is. Just inconsistency sometimes was cruel on him. But whatever happens, I think you will have. And there's no real guarantee that those 4 names that I mentioned will progress to the final. It's a good chance for someone. I was hoping Moody would win today and feel deep, but Bingham bit of me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The thing about Moody is sometimes you'll do that to Wilson in the English shot. By the way, Maguire taking absolutely ages on this shot now. I think he wants to go for a red in towards the left corner and push the cue ball into the black there. 7 points will be awarded to O'Sullivan, but more importantly, he ain't gonna get away with the positional sense this time around. Clearly, didn't find any room to send the cue ball And therefore, he's going to put O'Sullivan with a great chance of not necessarily taking the opening frame, but getting himself some points on the board. And and then he lost out, Stan Moody, to Anthony McGill in the quarterfinal by 4 frames to 1. No, I think it was 5 frames to 3, sorry. That was a different match that I'm looking at. And of course, today, lost out to Bingham in a whitewash there. So, I suppose he's still very young there, 19 years of age. Consistency will come to him with experience. And the fact that he can knock out the likes of Ali Carter and Karen Wilson in consecutive tournaments is surely a good sign for him at such an early stage. But yeah, I think from Bingham's point of view, I think it will be a really difficult ask for him because I have to be honest. I know that he made a final last year, but we all know what happens when there was a whitewash 10-0 against Neil Robertson. I'm going to have a word on Robertson as well now because I think he'll be very disappointed with himself. You know, he had a gap to overcome to his opponent from China. And he was leading by 4 frames to 3. Then he lost out the frame in circumstances there I didn't see because, as I say, I was keeping an eye on Si Jiawei and Daniel Wells match. And and he decided he had his chances, but I think he was too eager on some of them and too hesitant on the other ones. And in the end, Xi'An just managed to get the most out of him. And certainly was very happy with himself as there was a very loud shout when he was confirmed that he was the winner of his match. And he will progress to the last 16 of his home tournament, the China Grand Prix. And if you talk about Stephen Maguire here whilst Ronnie's on a break, and you can always say that the head-to-head between the two of them, as I say, goes 24 years later and 24 years ago, whatever you want to call it. And it has started with a brilliant win of RonnieOSullivan against Stephen Maguire in the World Championship of 2001. And ever since, the scoreline is 14 times Ronnie was victorious in his battles against Stephen Maguire. If we talk about ranking events, I'm not going to count Championship League in that aspect. And 4 times it has been Maguire's triumph. So 18 matches played, 14 of those were won by Ronnie, and the other 4 were completed by Stephen Maguire there. And Ronnie's on a great course now to get himself started with a nice little break here. And whilst he's got a little bit of a delay, I'll just let you know how the other matches are doing. Gary Wilson seems to be off to a great start against Mateusz Baranowski there. And Elias Lesser, Oliver Lyons are also featuring. Matthew Stevens, Sean Murphy, Vuyiza Chepchayonu, Barry Hawkins, and Mark Williams and Joey Long are probably the biggest names that are still yet to progress to the last 16 here. So they play 2 matches tomorrow, usually quarters Friday, semi-Saturday and final Sunday, but we still have... No. So basically, because we started this in Tuesday, we're going to finish with the final on Monday. Don't know why, I think this is a bit weird, especially because so many people have work on Monday, and the way this usually goes is you have the first session of the final start on 7 o'clock in the morning, and, talk about the UK time. It's pretty much the same in Europe, and then you'll have the 12:30 as the evening session, because when it's 12:30 in Europe and in the UK, it's 7:30 in the evening basically for China, so they do it that way. So we're going to have last 16 tomorrow on Friday, then we're going to have quarterfinals on Saturday, semi-finals on Sunday, and then we're going to have the final on Monday. So not too sure why or what's led to this, but whatever it is, we can safely say that it's not going to... Well, some people are not going to enjoy it. I don't necessarily mind it because I can try and change things up there, but I think some people will find that rather awkward. Never known their final on a Monday before, apart from Worlds on Bank Holiday Monday, but thanks for the info. Yeah, as I'm saying, like, it surely has to be something to do with the fact that it is so late in China when we start. So why would you start it on a Tuesday when you could start it on a Monday and finish it off on a Sunday? I'll never know. Because that way you'll have a day before the Scottish qualifiers as well. So anyway, I suppose you do what you have to do. But I think the viewership numbers are going to be compromised by that fact. And there's Ronnie now, looking to resume his break. He's on 54 points, so just having a look at the scoreboard. So usually a sign that he can't find an easy way onto the red. And yeah, I mean, when I say couldn't really find an easy way into the red, so he tried to land in between the two reds. So one is blocked out by the pink here, and the other one is a difficult cut now for him. So 64 points is the gap now in his favour. Still 83 points on the table. So it's not looking too good now for Ronnie. Only one of those reds is going to be safe there for him. And he's looking to chalk his cue very awkwardly here. So it doesn't seem to have a lot of confidence. By the way, very much pleased to see the interview of Ronnie yesterday saying that he feels like it is the best time. He's having the best time on the table. And it feels like he's never queued so well since 2013. There you go. 2013 was the time, was probably the last year that myself actually didn't watch snooker there. Started to do that in 2014 season. But Ronnie manages to find a way out of that situation. Pots the red into the right corner. Follows it up with the blue. So now the red with the rest as his frame ball in towards the right corner pocket. And it's a lovely little shot there. And a fantastic break there for Ronnie. Once again doing the same thing as he's managed to do against both Julian Boyko and Yao Cheng. Produce a 60 plus break in the opening frame. And take it with a convincing fashion. So right now it's going to be all about some of the consistency for Ronnie. And very important for him to try and keep up that momentum. Just stay focused on his game. And try not to lose frames there to Maguire early doors. As he get the red in. Of course, we want to see a century now from Ronnie. It's something that you always want to see and you never get tired of. He's seeing a century from the player like RonnieOSullivan. 77 points right now, 84 points in total. 77 of those on the break, and it's a lovely little cannon into the reds to free up both of those. And have a look at the positional shot there. The pink is going to go perfectly into the left corner. And you can just do a little bit of backspin on this one. Try and play the red into the same corner. Get yourself onto 84 points right now. And the two reds, should they be played with the black there, will get him to 100 points exactly. But he fancies his chances of getting the contact with the red there. So we'll go for the pink into the right corner at least once at a time. And once again here, Ronnie takes the red into the right corner, the last one that was available to him, and right now he's got a black for 99 points, and he fancies himself to just pot this red along the cushion. So the break of 99 points, all about this red right now. Is he going to play it with no power? No, he won't, but he'll still drop this one in, and it's a lovely little shot there from Ronnie to get himself a break of 100 points and counting. Could finish up on 134 if he makes a total clearance. His highest break of the tournament so far is 128 points achieved yesterday against Yao Cheng. And once again, lovely little snooker now from Ronnie. Never looked like he was going to be in trouble of that cue ball, apart from maybe one of the shots that, to be fair to him, still managed to recover brilliantly there. Hope we see Ronnie versus Wilson in a semi-long way to go for that, but I think they've got a good rivalry going on. Well, the thing about Ronnie against Wilson is, recently, and I've got nothing against Karen, I really like the lad, but Ronnie always seems to lose to him recently. I mean, I still go back to that final where he absolutely destroyed him after beating Selby in a really tough match. But, you know, you talk about Shanghai Masters, he lost out to him that one. I suppose he did win to him against Saudi Arabia Masters with 6 frames to 5, so not necessarily the fair comment, but it probably is, well, it definitely is the highest pairing that you could see in the entire tournament, as O'Sullivan finishes off with a wonderful clearance there. Lovely to see, a break of 134, and the frame will end on that high note for Ronnie and his fans. Stephen Maguire has to stay in his chair there. Sullivan is a very strong player, so I like, wow, I mean, you can't dislike Ronnie. Pretty sure very few people in the snooker world would do that. And he certainly plays the game in the very right way. But talk about the pairings, I was really looking forward to a potential quarter-final clash of RonnieOSullivan against Neil Robertson. But I suppose RonnieOSullivan against Kyren Wilson is a higher pairing in terms of their position, and certainly the better pairing on paper there. The world number 2 against the world number 4. Both of them are world champions. And it's the only problem is, who is he going to have to play in the final? I can't stop thinking about that. Judd Trump, Mark Selby, and Zhao Xington have all been eliminated within 24 hours there. And by the way, let's have a look how the other players are doing. As I say, Gary Wilson got himself to a great start against Mateusz Baranovski. Once again, found himself on the break here. Sean Murphy and Wu Yize are still battling for the opening frame. Chip Chayonu managed to take on the opening frame against Barry Hawkins, and a good little habit, checking his account just to see if he has got another maximum on the board, which he's known for, well, at least 140 break. He's also known for missing the last black when he's on a 147 break, and also Zhou Yulong lost out the frame in the opening part of the match to Mark Williams. And remember, these two have met before in the English Open, and Zhou Yulong managed to take that match by 4 frames to 1. So looking forward to see if Williams can produce a little bit of revenge. Matthew Stevens is on the back foot straight away against Liu Haotiang. And lost out the opening frame. As I say, Sean Murphy, Wu Yize is still battling away. Barry Hawkins lost out the opening frame. And Elliot Slesser has lost out the opening frame as well to Oliver Lines. Let's see if that is going to be the tendency, or it was just one of those one-off frames. For now, it is Stephen Maguire looking to come back to the table after not having the most of this time. In the previous frame, Ronnie got off to a commanding start, and Maguire was in a little bit of trouble, and right now has to put himself back together, get himself off with a nice break-off shot, and get himself a chance to re-establish things and make the scoreline even. The last thing that Maguire wants to do is catch the blue here. I mean, the last thing that I was going to say Maguire wants to do is leave a gap there for O'Sullivan, but he catches the blue on the break-off shot, leaves away a chance now for Ronnie. And if ever there was a gift there for the Rocket, well, there's one for you. Ronnie's quarter got easier on paper with Robertson going out. Jack Jones next if he wins here, then possibly Gary Wilson. Absolutely. You're reading my mind. I've already got the draw there. So it's basically Wilson against the player that managed to beat Robertson. I'm not going to even pronounce his name just because it's going to be very disrespectful. I know his surname is Xie, the player from China. But as many times as I try to pronounce his name, is it going to be a mistake there from Ronnie? He has to be very careful to walking towards the cue ball, and it stopped on the edge of the right middle. Don't know what on earth he was doing, trying to play the cue ball in towards the black there. Didn't get himself to any good here. And good to see him not taking a chance, just playing a safety shot. A little bit of a waste from both players' perspective. Maguire with a dreadful break-off shot, and O'Sullivan only managing to produce a single point out of it. And I will say, though, it is going to get more and more difficult for O'Sullivan, even if he is going to have to face Jones and Wilson. My explanation for that is going to be the fact that Jack Jones has been playing very well recently. He's managed to get himself into a semi-final of the English Open, lost out against Mark Allen in the deciding frame, so could have easily been the player to try and challenge Zhou Yulong for the title. And it would have been one of those two players having their maiden ranking event win. He's the highest seed than Maguire as well. And then Gary Wilson, another finalist this season. Wuhan Open managed to knock out the likes of Sean Murphy, Judd Trump in the progress. So I still think it's going to be very difficult for Ronnie. But if he plays the way he has been so far against Maguire, I think he certainly has a chance against anyone. Still got to this one, although it started very well. Yes, this is what I'm saying. He has to take it match by match, not get ahead of himself. But One thing though, he won't get ahead of himself because it's not like he's got Mark Selby, Sean Murphy or Neil Robertson to face in the last 16. And out of those 3 players that I've just mentioned, I mean Jack Jones, Gary Wilson and Stephen Maguire, I think Ronnie will have a lot more praise for Stephen there, but not after this shot. As Maguire goes down very quickly there and leaves away a red there for Ronnie, but very surprising miss from the Rocket. The red basically was very close to the right corner pocket. I wasn't going to say that he was basically in the pocket, but surprised to see him miss the shot. And Maguire will come back to the table with a chance to take the red himself in towards the left corner. Hello everyone. Hello over Tony. I mean, as a Liverpool fan, I don't appreciate that, but I will say hello everyone. Hello, hello. And, well, talk about the misses. It is going to be the miss from Maguire as well. I mean, his shot was probably slightly more difficult. And, yeah, he gets away with it to an extent there. But I think RonnieOSullivan will still have a chance to take this red along the line of a diagonal ball into the right corner. It's the more difficult of the 2 that he had to play recently. But as it usually is with Ronnie, it's the more difficult shots that he manages to execute perfectly. And once again land himself nicely on the black here. So a perfect start in the first frame. Can he make it 2 out of 2 here? And counters the cue ball into the bunch perfectly here. And very nicely, it's very nice to see Ronnie being comfortable and confident in himself. That interview when he did with Stephen Hendry on his channel Q-Tips has actually given you a little bit of an insight that, because there was a question asked by Hendry, why did you stop going from the back straight away? And to which Ronnie responded, I will only go into the pack if I'm feeling confident in myself. And if I have a couple of those reds that I still have available to me until I have to develop some more of those, I'm just too terrified to leave myself with nothing on to play. And I'll look ridiculous and will have to work a lot harder for it. So, yeah, the emphasis was, I'm only going to play into the back straight away when I'm feeling really well about my game. And that's exactly what he's done. Develop a couple of reds there in the progress. Having a little chat with the referee just to sort something out in the crowd. Maybe one of the fans, maybe one of the light points. Just want to hear what he actually is saying. And yeah, he finished the conversation there with the referee, so obviously has been sorted. Surprised that you said about Ronnie's interview. Normally finds negative about his game when he's playing great. He's feeling well this week by the sounds of it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, very, very surprised positively. And you can find that, I promise you, I didn't take it out of my, imagination book. You can find out the interview on the WSD app or on the social media. But it was basically comparing himself to the Roger Federer, forgot what it was, I think it was Michael Jordan. Not going to say, yeah, so he basically was saying Roger Federer there, I can't remember the second name, but Lionel Messi of the sport, yeah, I remember that one. And he was saying that, I don't know why fans think that about me, but if I can provide them with a beautiful game and something to be happy about, then I'm going to be very happy about myself. I believe it. Well, that's what I'm saying. Appreciate that. And Ronnie for now has got a little bit of a difficult black right now to try and cut. As another thing that I actually wonder is in the same interview with Hendry, just a couple of shots later, he found himself on a difficult black, and he was saying he's terrified of playing those blacks right now with a lot of angle. And Hendry, funnily enough, told him that he was actually trying to leave himself on for the times when he was playing really well in his prime, when he know those world titles. He was purposefully trying to leave himself with a lot of angle on the black there, because he says it was easier for him to pot. But funnily enough, when he came back to the table in the qualifiers in 2021, he found out that, that form is certainly gone now. And Ronnie has taken the red nicely in towards the left corner. So use the cue ball to try and aim it in towards the green now, into the green pocket. Into the pink, into the green pocket there. And it's a nice little shot once again. Brilliant shot, in fact. As the position on the red is sublime yet again. I mean, I don't want to criticize him, or jinx him, I should say, but he's playing perfectly so far. I mean, it's probably a horrible statement to make, but I mean, what the shots that he's played, you know, the shot selection, refusing all those dodgy and risky shots in the start of it. I mean, it is looking like we are seeing the best of RonnieOSullivan since 2022 at least. I wouldn't say it's 2012, 2013 era yet, but the confidence, the little time in between the shots, the perfect positional shots, he's just looking to accumulate all of those. He likes to mention Novak Djokovic and a lot of his... No, because he was saying Federer. It certainly was Federer there, because he was trying to mention some of the different sports. As I say, I think it was Messi that he mentioned from football. I think he mentioned Federer from tennis, definitely, and there could have been one more that I can't remember. Yeah, just can't remember him. And he's got the frame ball right now of the pink, and he manages to take this one brilliantly into the left corner. So he's now 70 points clear with 67 on the table. Got the red nicely in towards the middle. Dropped this one in with no pace at all. And we're certainly not going to see Stephen Maguire come back to the table at the second frame. So very quick frame there, it would seem, by Ronnie, although he will miss the black here. Don't think Maguire is going to pursue the frame. And it's 12 points, not safe right now, with 59 points still on the table. He will come back to the table, though. So let's see what he wants to produce. And also the black is out of the game, so as I was ready to award the frame there to Ronnie. So Maguire wants to take the blue here. That will lose him at least 2 of the points. It is amazing that he can still play at this level. It certainly is. And I was really dreading it after he lost out to Xi'An in the World Championship, that he was just going to call it a day. And I was really, really scared to watch his interview post-match, because I thought it was going to be the same as Hendry in 2012, when he was like officially retired from the sport. But very, very fortunate, very happy to see him still play the Saudi Arabia Masters, and of course right now producing on a great show and a great performance against Stephen Maguire, who gets himself 12 points on the board here, and still losing a lot of those points. So maybe he was just trying to get himself into the game, something that Ronnie used to do a couple of years ago. Just when he was sort of 90 points down, he'll still come back to the table and just get the break of 35 points and produce a total clearance, just to get himself at least something to warm up with, and not just stay in his seat for the entirety of the frame length. And Maguire getting some nice shots here, as he's got a semi-difficult pink now in towards the right middle. Not going to be too easy of that one, as still tries to take this one seriously, and he manages to get the pink in. And it's a nice shot there by him. Gets the red in as well. So he's still in this, man. And just having a little bit of an issue with the format and with the broadcast. But yeah, it is frame conceded there. So it will be framed to RonnieOSullivan. So in the end, it didn't really matter for Stephen Maguire. I don't think he was trying to get himself back within touching distance of Ronnie. I think it was all about just trying to get some of the playing time. And in the end, couldn't produce enough of it at that time of asking. So it is now 2-0 in favour of RonnieOSullivan. He was 4-1 now today at the bookies to win the tournament before today's matches. So we'll have a bet on tomorrow for someone to win. But I bet he will be around 2-1, maybe shorter. Might go for one. What is if he beats Murphy today? I was always very, very full of praise there for Maguire, but recently, I just was disappointed by his inconsistency. Like, he can be in the final up against Robertson, and then he can play absolutely dreadfully against Scott Donaldson there in that match for the Wuhan Open at that time, I think. And it was just a disappointment to see him, the way he was actually playing. Just, there's no real awareness there to him. Similar to Ding Junhui, but Ding has got the brilliant maturity to just play and produce those shots at the time when it matters. And, well, you could say the same about Sean Murphy, actually, but it is looking like the scoreline is going to be 1-1 there. You're right, I thought he was going to improve after some good runs last season. Seems to have gone backwards a bit. Yeah, I still think he's got some time ahead of him. And he is the highest ranking of the likes of Joey Long Lipe fan and, well, not necessarily Lipe fan right now. Yeah, you will be a Lipe fan. And, which was the other one I was thinking? Yeah, Watchalong Lipe fan. So he only has like Zhao Xingdong and Ding Zhuoyi ahead of him with Xiao Godon. I think he's sharing the spot with Zhang there. And with the other matches, Gary Wilson is still battling away for the second frame against Mateusz Baranowski. Watchalong is trying to challenge Mark Williams for the second frame. Barry Hawkins is very close to making it a scoreline of 1 frame each against Chip Chayonu there. He's a big talent. He's tough on tour, so many great players. It is true, absolutely true. You have to be the best to try and, well, get ahead of so many great players on the tour. And that's exactly the aim for him, as we're ready to get the third frame underway. The opening two have gone with a little bit of domination there from RonnieOSullivan, as once again gets the break off now, wants to avoid the mistake that Maguire made and not catch the blue there with the cue ball. Nice little line there and a perfect pace to land perfectly on the ball cushion. I mean, he's absolutely flying in those 2 frames right now. Maguire needs this frame. He can't afford to go 3-0 down. I will absolutely agree with you on this one. But I don't think Ronnie will care about what you, me or him will think, because if he plays the way he's played in the opening 2 frames, there's little that Steven can do. And it just turns into very close to that unplayable mode they're so known by. 3-0, it's all but over. Yeah, I agree. At 2-0, it's a massive task for him, because I still think that 3-1 is going to be over, so you will need 2 of the frames for me. He can't afford to go 3-1 down, because I just can't see Ronnie losing 3 frames on the bounce there against Maguire, especially the way that he's played at the early stages. Which is why I thought it was going to be really important to take the opening frame there by Steven. And he's absolutely flying there. Ronnie once again goes after a difficult safety there from Maguire. He goes for a brilliant shot into the left middle, and he makes this one absolutely spot on with a lovely little positional shot on the cue ball, being aimed towards the ball colours, so either green or brown, to be rattled into the yellow pocket. We're just going to say the same, even if he wins this frame, he needs the next one too. Well, I mean, it just gets more and more difficult now for him, because he can't do anything against O'Sullivan like that. He's gone for the shot that was risky. He didn't really care about leaving one of those reds available there for Maguire, because he was playing openly for one of the ball colours. And he's off to a great start right now in the third frame. And it has been 42 minutes since the match has started. And it's looking like a very good chance for a 3-0 lead now for Ronnie. He's off to... Yeah, as I say, I thought actually... I didn't want to say, but I thought we might be here for an upset. I did think Maguire was going to win this match. I didn't think he was... Well, I didn't actually think he was going to be the favourite, but if he won this match by 5 frames to 3, I would have not been surprised one bit there. Probably would have predicted to see Ronnie win just about 5-3, 5-4. But the way he's been playing, I mean, that is not going to happen at all. Once again, another good red in towards the left corner. The blue is going to go in towards the right middle. The red will follow in the exactly same pocket there. Once again, you can just see the way he flawlessly plays his shots. He knows which shot he's going to go for. He cleared up the path for him for the black there by taking that red out of the game. So that's not going to be an issue now. He's got 2 of those reds to try and play right now. And he can try and send the cue ball in towards the reds very soon here. And he may actually try and do this right now. But has to be careful that he actually lands on the collar. Obviously a lot of topspin will be added to get himself through the black. And I did say a lot of topspin would have had to be added. But I don't think he added just about enough there. And it's a difficult black now for him to try and make. Yeah, it was just one shot too many there. No matter how good you're playing, this is just one of those shots that you can't take on as a player. I don't think Prime Stephen Hendry puts that one 10 times out of 10. And probably Prime RonnieOSullivan won't do that either. As he misses the black in towards the right corner. It was very, very difficult after sending the cue ball into the reds there. So Maguire has got a chance now to redeem himself and well, get himself the first point since the opening frame. No, sorry, since the second frame, of course. He still went back to the table to get himself the break of 20 points there. And yeah, so actually with his black going so close over the right corner and Maguire pushes one red there to potentially try and slow the game down, this is the perfect chance for me to bring up that story about Daniel Wells and Xi'An earlier. There was a massive argument well, I say a massive, there was certainly an argument there in between the two, where I was watching the match and it basically was the black the way it is right now over the right corner pocket. So you have all the reds building up towards it. So I thought it was going to be a re-rack, so I switched it off, went outside, came back half an hour later, and I went on to click on the match and I saw that it was exactly the same situation. And the second I clicked on it, I've seen Daniel Wells sort of throw his hands in the air. And I thought, well, this is interesting. You don't often see that on the snooker table. So I thought I might get the audio on. As Maguire goes for a decent shot here. But at this stage, you're not going to have Ronnie troubled in terms of the safety. So 2 reds so far, going very close to the black. But yeah, so as I turn the audio on, he's saying to Xi'An, we're going to be here forever. It's only 17 points, which is the gap. So the scoreline is 17 points to Xi'An, 0 to Daniel Wells. It is frame number 7. And the opening 3 frames were won by Daniel Wells. So Xi'An wins the next 3 frames. So it's 3 each now. Xi'An has 17 points, but there's no real chance for any of them to get out of the situation. As I say, half an hour I haven't watched the match and it hasn't changed the frame situation. So he says to him, we're going to be here forever. Let's do a re-rack. Xi'An doesn't say to him anything, so he takes the next shot, and then Wells continues the conversation by saying, I'm going to go to the head referee right now. So obviously saying that he ain't going to play because he's just useless and pointless. So a very interesting thing happens then. Xi'An on the previous shot, the one that he mentioned, he's gone for the head referee statement, as O'Sullivan goes for a really risky shot into the left corner. And I'm not sure if he's managed to find the plan there, and he certainly did, and it's a wonderful shot. It was well disguised there by Maguire. Not even too sure he's actually seen it, but Ronnie is off to a great start. But the problem is the black that I mentioned is not visible to the cue ball right now. It's covered up by the reds on the side of the table that he finds himself in, so the pink is not really going to be available into the right middle. So blue into the yellow pocket is probably the obvious shot there. But yeah, it was difficult for just how much of backspin Ronnie was trying to add to get the cue ball back for the reds into the left corner. But looks like we are going to see the development in the position. So yeah, continuing the story, Xi'An played an aggressive shot and nearly potted the black there. So there was a little bit of distance in between the top reds that he was actually playing. And then, so next shot goes by. Wells says he'll go to the head referee, and then Xi'An, what does he do? He absolutely smashes all of those reds into the right corner. And as he walks off there, pots the black, obviously. And as he walks away, he just says, okay now. And Daniel Wells clearly lost something in that one, as Maguire goes for the shot into the left corner. But once again, it just hasn't kicked off there for him. And he misses one more red there. O'Sullivan will try to pick up the scraps here from the same red. Surely get himself on with a chance of a break. And yeah, I mean, he was like saying, what do you mean okay now? So did you try to pot the black there? Obviously, a little bit of context. If you try to pot the black and it's a foul, it's a deliberate foul, you're not allowed to do that. It's a loss of frame. And Xi'An once again is just silent there, standing next to him, looking at him. And he was saying, did you try to pot the black? What do you mean, okay, happy now? If it's a deliberate foul, it should be a loss of frame. And he's speaking to the referee in the meantime, and the referee didn't say a word in the whole discussion there. And he's just asking him after the moment of silence, once again, he's just asking him, did you deliberately try and pot the black? He's saying, no, just played a safety shot there. And he sort of went, oh yeah, all right, yeah, of course it was a safety shot. And on one thing, you have to say Daniel Wells is a little bit out of order there. But on the other hand, I mean, I've watched that shot 3 times there. And I've got absolutely no idea and no other explanation other than Xi'An was actually trying to go for the black and trying to pot it. I've got no idea why, and I've got no reason to tell you why. But, I mean, if you're going to tell me that he wasn't trying to pot it, I mean, why on earth would you not just go for a re-rack? As he was saying to him previously, it's 17 points, it's 2 reds and 2 blacks. What are you trying to achieve? The frame almost took an hour, and by the way, context, Daniel Wells went on to win the match and win those 2 frames, so he won the re-rack. Not the re-rack, because there wasn't a re-rack. And Xi'An potting the black opened up all of those reds into the right corner. Wells produced a good enough break to get himself 50 points clear. And right now, Ronnie gets himself into a lovely little break. Lands himself on the black here, in towards the right corner, and once again we'll have the path for the cue ball to be sent in towards the reds, and lovely little shot there for him. Has to bridge over a red there to make the shot a little bit awkward. And yeah, I mean, very interesting to hear Xi'An's comments. I don't think the media has picked up on it because you know, the match is not necessarily such a high name as for example, I don't know, O'Sullivan against Maguire or Stan Moody against Stuart Bingham there. But yeah, very interesting to hear the explanation from both of the players, because if that wasn't a deliberate foul and obviously wasn't called by the referee, I mean, very much want to see what that actually was, because I've got I was thinking about that one for about 5 minutes and I still couldn't give you an answer on what he was trying to achieve with that shot, other than trying to forcefully and purposefully try and pot the black there. But I suppose very interesting to hear the story from the players. As for now, it's O'Sullivan that goes for a frame ball over red into the right corner, pots it one very, very nicely, and another break of 50 plus potentially upcoming here. He's got just about enough points for a century break. All the colours apart from the blue are pretty much on their spots there. And it certainly is GG's in the third frame. And O'Sullivan off to a great flyer now. And, well, I don't want to say too early, but the match is probably reaching the phase where it's too much of a gap there for Maguire to try and climb. I believe that. For O'Sullivan, it must be win it now. Well, I was just about to say that, but commentator's curse just guide the temptation. But I can barely keep up with him on the scoring points here, as he's got a pink into the right middle. Lovely shot once again. So 63 points. Not too sure why it says 35 on the table. And yeah, so it will be a break of 63 points to get himself into the 3-frame advantage. It is now RonnieOSullivan 3, Stephen Maguire 0. And it's all to play for still for Ronnie, but it's a massive mountain now for Maguire to try and climb. And an hour ago, it was looking like it was going to be one of those 50-50 matches, but right now it is looking 99% to 1% there in favour of the Rocket RonnieOSullivan. And in the other matches, Matthew Stevens, after knocking out the world number 1, seems to be losing to Lu Hao Tang by 3 frames to 0. Oliver Lyons is trying to do the same to Elias Lesser. Already has got a nice little gap of 2 frames to 0. Barry Hawkins, Chip Chayanu, Wu Yize, Sean Murphy, Joe Yulon and Mark Williams all have the same scoreline of 1 frame each, joined by Guy Wilson and Mateusz Baranovski. Still, one of these players could face O'Sullivan in the quarter-final stage. Will you always cover Ronnie's matches as long as it remains a beautiful question? And the answer to it probably is going to be yes. Because I thought about trying to spread it out, but then I thought, well, if you try to spread it out for all of the players, A, they're not as popular, and B, I mean, O'Sullivan has missed 3 tournaments where we didn't have any of his matches going on. So we had Wuhan Open, he didn't play in that one. English Open, missed that one. And British Open. All the players were getting the spotlight. So, especially when he's, as I don't want to say, getting to the end of his career, you want to see and you want to try and watch every single match that he's played. So the answer is yes, I will try and cover every single one of the matches that RonnieOSullivan still remains in. But for example, if it is Karen Wilson against Judd Trump, I know it's not possible for this tournament, but just for the future, or it is RonnieOSullivan against Yao Cheng as it was yesterday, of course I'll go for the world number 1 and 2 to play against each other. But as I say, Ronnie, if he wins this one, and he seems to be on the road to do that now, you will face Jack Jones in the last 16 match, and then you'll face either Gary Wilson, Mateusz Baranowski, or Xi'An Yonder, the player that has managed to beat Neil Robertson and progress himself to the last 16. So he has got, I don't want to say straightforward, but he hasn't got a top 16 player in the east side of the quarter. Of course, he'll have to certainly play at least one of those, with Sean Murphy, Karen Wilson still being on the east side of the draw in terms of it being the semi-final clash potentially set up. And we're ready to start off the 4th frame right now. And yeah, Maguire gets himself running here with a break-off shot that this time doesn't catch the blue here. So it's a nice little shot selection there for him. But this time, once again, leaving a red there for O'Sullivan. And we all know what happened in frame number 2 for Ronnie. And I mean, he is absolutely flying if he gets on the black here. And he was trying to do his best with a little, like that, positional shot, trying to stop the cue ball with all the forces that he's had. But in the end, even though he got a lovely little kiss on the red, still going to run himself out of position here. Ronnie's a major star, will be foolish not to cover as much as me think. Well, I suppose, that's what I'm saying. You never know how many more matches and how many more tournaments you actually play, because if you look at the schedule that he had last season, he only played 5 tournaments or so. He played World Championship. I'm not sure he even played in the Masters and the UK Championship, I'll be honest. I think he missed out those as well, but could be wrong. And he was playing the China International, but he only got to the round 2 there. And he was playing the China Grand Prix that he got to the semi-final. So it's very few tournaments that he actually participates in. So have to be there when it matters. And when he actually is playing like this, I mean, he'll be certainly foolish not to appreciate the game that he's producing. Maguire trying to take this red in towards the right corner now. And get himself started here. And it's a lovely little shot now. As long as he lands himself on the colour. Just about does. But impossible pretty much to get a transition off this brown. And taking the yellow. It's a really difficult cut into its own pocket. Sending the cue ball into the bunch of reds. So a little bit of a hidden hope shot. Be an interesting game against Jones. But sounds like on this form you have to fancy the Rocket. Still every single match is different. And to do that he still needs to get past Maguire. I thought Ronnie was immune to losing 4 frames on the bounce until I've seen the last year's champion of champions against Xiao Gadun, as Maguire does go for the yellow into its own pocket but misses it and actually has developed the position very nicely for Ronnie here. So yeah, it's all falling out of hand now for Stephen Maguire and he's playing out perfectly now for RonnieOSullivan, but the position that he currently finds himself in is rather very difficult, especially in terms of the colours. The blue, yellow, green, all heavily out of position. Pink is not possible into loads of those positions. And the black, which O'Sullivan seems to commit to right now, is very close to its own cushion into the left corner. So suppose if you put the black back to its own spot, the position is going to improve drastically for you. But until then, you're going to have to find a solution here. So I think he will pot this black, and it's all about getting on the next red, which I don't think is going to be an easy job either, because all of them seem to be in the way of each other. Position is really bunched up at this moment in time. So he just has to try and pick out those reds one by one. He's tried to go for one of the top reds in towards the right corner. As, by the way, many people, 92% think RonnieOSullivan win. I should stop doing polls on the matches of RonnieOSullivan against anyone. I thought Maguire, for what he brought to the game previously, will give him a little bit of a more of a fair game. But I mean, let's be honest, you never think that RonnieOSullivan was going to win this match before it started with a 92-point percentage. I mean, I genuinely thought it was going to be like 55% to 45. in favour of Ronnie. But it's very lovely and it's very nice to see him play the game. It has been so far. Once again, eliminates the black into the left corner, cannons the cue ball into the other red, and is landing himself into a really nice position right now, with the cue ball being sent in towards the black for the right corner shot there. So just play through this shot now, and get himself lined up for a red into the right corner. So taking those easy reds one by one so far that he managed to produce to himself, and of course massive advantage that, you know, he managed to put the black back on its spot, the blue, the pink, and yellow, green are still out of position. So it's in between the brown and the black there for him. He can try and take the green back to its spot here, but the angle is not going to be too favourable there for him. But once again, 4-0 probably is game over. I don't really want to say that in 3-0, because 3-0 against Xi'An Godon, as I mentioned, champion of champions last season. I was watching that match and I thought he was absolutely flying in the opening 3 frames, but Xi'An managed to turn it around brilliantly there and get himself into a 4-3 win, winning 4 frames on the bounce and absolutely shutting him down there. Let's see if Maguire... Well, of course, Xi'An Godon is very different in terms of being the style of a player that Stephen Maguire has, as Ronnie gets the cue ball back for the lower part of the table yet again here. Got himself lined up on a shot into the right corner. So a little bit of backspin to get himself back for the brown or the green now that he's got 2 colours to try and choose from. Lovely little shot, the one that he missed earlier in the frame number 2, I think it was, but at that time it didn't matter because the frame was already won by a significant amount of points. And in the opening frame, of course, we still managed to witness a brilliant break of 134 points from RonnieOSullivan. After sorting out the early issues that he's had, I think he's going to run himself out of position here on this red. But he was looking at the plan previously, so it might have been a strategical decision. If he just tries to take the cue ball and send it into the reds for the plant, into the right corner. Lovely little shot that stunned the cue ball as well for a shot into the left middle for the pink. The angle to send the cue ball into the reds, just thinking about 3-4 shots ahead. Lovely little execution there from Ronnie. And right now puts himself as a massive favourite to take this frame in the current visit to the table. It's all about making this pink in, because he has to play with a lot of power. Once again, precision, as it always is. So just play the cue ball through this red, land it on the black, into the right corner and get yourself a 41 point advantage. With only 75 of those still available on the table there. But I think that number will be reduced very, very drastically in the upcoming shots, as the positional changes that he's made are going to be enough there, you would seem, for Ronnie to actually make this one the one that counts. And right now he's got 49 points advantage. He'll be 56 with the black here as he develops it really nicely. Misses the red there, which I think he would have been planning to get himself a little cannon, but not going to matter massively. Another red will disappear into the left corner, and you can barely keep it up with him because it was 75 points on the table a couple of moments ago, and all of a sudden it's a frame ball taken there off the black into the left corner. Lovely little break of 64 points right now from RonnieOSullivan and counting. He's managed to produce 60 plus breaks in every single one of those frames. Can he make it a second century on the board and make it a 4-0 lead against Stephen Maguire? The match has only been going for barely an hour and we already are going to have an intermission break. And it's an intermission break that Stephen Maguire will be looking forward to, because it's probably going to be the most enjoyable part of the match so far. Has been absolutely played off the park here. And once again, GG's now. And potentially only 1 frame away from it being the GG's in the entire match now. I will be honest, I was looking through the scoreboards to have a look at the head-to-head in between the matches. I don't think I came away through too many of the whitewashes in either one of the players, but Ronnie seemed to be only 1 frame away from doing that against Stephen Maguire. He's on the break of 85 points, so he's got a red along the cushion to try and play. And yeah, He was trying to play that one with a lot of power, but in the end, it's not going to be a century break, but it certainly will be a break of 85 to wrap off the opening mini session here. And it is 4-0 lead now to RonnieOSullivan. Stephen Maguire has got it all to do in the second mini session if he wants to come back in this round 3 clash. But for now, it is an absolute demolition job there for Ronnie. And we'll be back with you for more action in just about 15 minutes time after the intermission will end there. Until then, Mateusz Baranowski has actually managed to take a frame away from Gary Wilson there, and he's leading by 2 frames to 1. Sean Murphy's leading Wu Yizard by 2 frames to 1. Barry Hawkins has got the same scoreline, his advantage against Jeb Chayonu, and Joe Yulon taking 2 frames on the bounce against Mark Williams to get himself to 1 ahead as well. And more action in 15 minutes time. Stay tuned in. And after a lovely little 15 minutes break, we are now back for some more action. And in the meantime, I did have a look and check. In the 18 minutes that those two have had in between each other, there never has been a single whitewash. So it's not looking too good now for RonnieOSullivan to make it a 5-0 win. But Stephen Maguire still needs to make sure that his game is going to improve. And he's not going to leave easy chances like that now for RonnieOSullivan, because Maguire goes for an early shot into the right corner. Desperation time starting to creep in there, you would feel. And, well, RonnieOSullivan, on the 19th time of asking, could he make it the first whitewash ever against Stephen Maguire in all of those meetings on the WST Tour. Right now he's off to a great start, taking the red into the left corner. It's pretty much handed on a plate there to him by Maguire. And the blue will go into the right middle nicely. Couple of available reds there for Ronnie until he has to send the cue ball into the pack of reds. Once again, recently has preferred to do that off the black ball there. And we'll see if that will change. But got a massive bounce now. Have to agree with him on that one. I think the cushion bounce was extraordinary there. He doesn't seem to complain too much about it, and just has to get on with the game. But I did think that the pace that he was playing the cue ball with was probably a little bit too much, but nowhere near to the extent that the cue ball was going to go, well, sort of, I don't know, quarter of a meter further down than he should have. But in the end, it's 6 points there for Ronnie, so an early break ends very quickly there. And Maguire gets away with a mistake that he made at the start of it. So he's still in this, Maguire, but he has to win every single frame from now on. And when I say he's in this one, he's only just about in this match, losing all of those 4 frames very comfortably. Didn't get further than a break of 20 points in the second frame. And really made at the time where he was already frame over. He has conceded very, very shortly after making that 20-point break, and can potentially try and consider going for this red into the left corner. And he went for it, and in the end looks like he will give away the red along the cushion now to Ronnie to try and play into the right corner. And it's all about, if he tries to this one, he checks that the black is available into the left corner, which I think he will be. So once again, every single one of those shots could be the last one in Stephen Maguire's campaign here at the China Grand Prix. And lovely little shot there from Ronnie. Takes the red into the right corner. Once again, lands himself nicely on the black. Wouldn't say it's an ideal situation. The cue ball is going to head in towards the reds yet again here. So has to apply a lot of backspin on the cue ball to generate pace to make sure that the white will get out of that trap. And having little problems with his tip there. Seems to have spotted something. As goes down for the shots 3 times now and goes back up there. Just to see. Obviously something on it that he's not too happy with. Applying a little bit of chalk there on it. But surely just a matter of time now with, things haven't necessarily changed in favour of Stephen Maguire. And Ronnie still goes down now for the 4th time now on this shot. And hope that this delay wouldn't cause him any issues, and he certainly didn't, because the black is going to disappear. One more red has been brought into play, and Ronnie is still comfortably on a couple of those reds into the left corner, or the left middle there. Takes one of those away, puts himself on the black in the same corner pocket, and plays through this shot right now. I think underrun slightly for the reds, so I might have to go for the right corner instead. But the good news for him is he's got so many of those to choose from right now. The 3 reds that are available to him in the open play are all available on the current shot here. One into the right middle, one into the right corner, and of course probably the one that he'll actually play right now into the left corner for good measure. So it seems to just have a look on every single one of them, but I think the logical shot is going to be to just try and eliminate that red into the left corner. Just get himself nicely on the pink there, potentially with an angle to send the cue ball into the reds. Pretty much a free shot that he's got there, but he decided to go for the blue, so it's easy in terms of trying to pot the colour into a middle pocket, but it's going to be a bit more problematic in terms of trying to get himself lined up and get the position improved. So for now, take it one at a time, and the blue should disappear into the middle very shortly. And it is now 22 points on the break, 28 points of an advantage. And it's looking more and more likely that that shot and mistake from Maguire on taking the long red that wasn't really available and didn't give him a great position on the black either was a huge mistake, and a mistake that ultimately is going to cost him something very close of a match here. But Ronnie plays a bad shot there on the black, trying to cannon the cue ball into the reds. In the end, lands himself with nothing to play for, so Maguire will return to the table for at least a couple of more shots. Ronnie has got 36 points of advantage to his name, still 107 on the table. Send the cue ball away from the back now and put a couple of more reds into the available player. I think he misjudged the pace on the cue ball though, so that's going to be a little bit short, but the red that is currently available into the left corner probably is not going to be potable from the angle that the cue ball finds himself in. Way too much pace to be sending the cue ball into the reds, and a very difficult cut for Maguire indeed. But I think at this stage he will be delighted just to have a couple of more shots here. And, well, at least one more chance now. I think is all he's going to say very much thank you towards. But he's going to give one more chance now to Ronnie. And remember the red that I mentioned that wasn't playable? Well, Maguire just didn't play a good enough safety shot there, catching the brown way too much there in the face. And the red that I was talking about is now available for Ronnie to try and play. Now just try and guide that one towards the corner pocket. And in the end he didn't, but he probably played the best safety shot of the frame here. The cue ball has gone very close to the baulk line, and the red, after cannoning off the two cushions, very near to the jaw pockets, has landed in the big mix of the reds underneath the ping there. Maguire can try and play the same red on the safety shot manner, try not to catch the jaw of the pocket, which he has managed to do at that time. So missing a red by a slightest of margins. Leaves the same red away now to Ronnie to try and play along the cushion if he wants to. I think he can afford to do whatever he wants really, being 4-0 up now. But if he wants to produce the first whitewash in the history of the meetings in between the two players, he has to take this frame as well. Is he going to make this shot now? Of course he will, because he is the 7-time world champion. And there's no such thing about as pressure there for him, and it's a really nice shot there. Beautiful position on the black, and surely the last time that we're going to see RonnieOSullivan enter the break here. But just as I say that, he's played the black nicely into the left corner, but hasn't landed on any of those reds. I think he was trying to generate a lot more contact than he actually managed to pull off there. So let's see if he's got a red available into the left corner, and if the answer is no to that question, he has to take potentially a double that he's actually looking for. And yeah, he didn't take a double, he just tried to use a red that was there for a double. There's a great safety shot there for him, once again playing that one really well, and just edging ever closer to the first whitewash. And the second one of today's campaign, after Stuart Bingham managed to beat Stan Moody with the same scoreline. Don't think I've seen any more matches end up in the same fashion. And I know that Aaron Hill, once again producing a wonderful performance against Mark Davies, managed to win against 5 frames to 1 and progress himself to the last 16. Another player that is going to be on the lower side of the draw, the side of the draw that has seen a lot of top seed players eliminated, the likes of Jock Trump, Mark Selby, Xiao Xington being just some of the names that are no longer participants of this tournament. Ronnie's long game still looks great. Got absolutely no clue what Stephen Maguire was trying to do up there. He was literally around half a metre away from the trajectory of the reds. He caught the black pretty much full ball there. And yeah, he'll certainly be asked to be put back in the same position. So to talk about the Ronnie's long game, I wouldn't say it's brilliant from what I've seen so far. I still would say it's around 60, 65%. I think that shot that he just managed to take was one of the few that he potted today. But apart from that, his cue ball control has been immaculate. The port success has been probably 95% or above. And his safety play has been flawless as well. So you can't really argue with that number. And once again, Maguire will miss the shot into the red. So 11 points gifted there to Ronnie. So 55 ahead, 99 on the table. Edging ever closer to getting that win over Stephen Maguire. Can try and go for a red now into the yellow pocket here. And get himself on the black here. Very close, but not quite there. Not quite in the yellow pocket. The position on the black was there for him. In the end, it will be Maguire to come back to the table. And he's got a similar shot to try and take on into either left mid or the yellow pocket there if he passes the blue. But I think at this stage, certainly haven't got too much to lose. And you can try and absolutely send it there if you're Stephen Maguire. But he doesn't think so. And he wants to stay in this frame in the match for a couple of more shots. But not going to do that if you play like this. I mean, he tries to play a safety shot, cushion first, but the red catches the yellow, pretty much full ball there. And Ronnie has got the same red available into the left middle. So just playing one more safety shot. Well, not necessarily a safety shot there from Ronnie, because he was trying to take the red into the yellow pocket. But just, yeah, just a horrible performance from Maguire overall, as Ronnie will get the red in. Doesn't get the position on the black though, so lost the cue ball to an extent. But the black is still going to disappear into the pocket. Really a nice shot there for him. And he's going to have a nice little view of the red as well. So 91 points on the table. 63 is the advantage. So not quite a censure break available, which of course I'm joking about right now. But Ronnie can still try and go for a couple of more reds. Still not too happy with the tip on his cue. And something that you should take very seriously, especially for all the praise that he's been giving to himself in his game very recently. The last thing you want something to happen is to his cue there. And lovely little shot once again into the right corner. The red will disappear. The yellow will be lined up in the opposite corner. And he's just having to make sure that the red is going to be available for him to try and pot it in the same pocket as the yellow will just disappear into. And play the red into the left corner, get himself 67 point clear with 75 on the table. And the next red will be a comfortable frame ball. And for the first time in the history of the meetings in between the two of them, it will be a whitewash win of RonnieOSullivan against Stephen Maguire. Never happened in 18 meetings previously, but looking like to be lucky number 19 and lucky number 5 now for RonnieOSullivan, because he will take the 5th frame as well after a brilliant performance. And well, you know, it looked like it was going to be the toughest challenge that he had to face all week now after beating Julian Boyko and Yao Ping Cheng, but Stephen Maguire unable to find any of the answers to the brilliant form that Ronnie has managed to produce. And he is now looking like an absolute whitewash and a demolition job there from the Rocket. Stephen Maguire will be eliminated, as O'Sullivan will make sure it's the last that we've seen of Stephen. So the shot selection of playing the red off the cushion there wasn't the right shot for him to play. And Ronnie, from the 3rd time of asking, manages to make this break the one that counts. Even though you won't pot the black, surely it is going to be now frame in the match for RonnieOSullivan. Lovely little words there for him. Stephen Maguire is smiling about it, clearly understands that it wasn't his game, but it was RonnieO'Sullivan's game. And he is now looking to make it into the quarterfinals, as he is going to be up against Jack Jones in the last 16. What a battle this is going to be. This year's semi-finalist of the English Open against the 7-time world champion. Looking forward to see that one unfold. But until then, it's the Rocket that can have an enjoyable rest there. Go for the running that he always tries to do. And in the other matches, by the way, Mark Williams, Joe Yalone are sharing the opening 2 frames. It's now 2 frames each. Barry Hawkins has got a lead of 3 frames to 2 against Chep Chayonu. Weezer and Sean Murphy both having 2 frames each. Matthew Stevens is losing to Lu Hao Tian by 1 frame to 0, but 1 frame to 3. And Gary Wilson has managed to even things out against Mateusz Baranovski. It is now 2 frames each. But for RonnieOSullivan, it has been a brilliant performance. And right now, he is going to be, well, certainly the first player to get himself into the last 16 of the evening session. And we'll see more of him tomorrow there. Good win. It certainly was a brilliant win. And we'll see more of Ronnie back in action tomorrow against Jack Jones. Fantastic to see that performance, and hopefully the best is yet to come from the 7-time world champion. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in, and we'll see you around soon. Stay tuned in.